Good evening. Please turn your phones off. Welcome to the August 16th, 2023 regular meeting of Eureka Springs Historic District Commission. I'm Dee Bright, Chair. Commissioners present tonight are Maggie Haid, Peter Graham, Christine Santamore, Kelly Cole Ladwick, and Frank Green. Absent is Judy Holden. We have a quorum for business. The Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is empowered by the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to issue a certificate of appropriateness for alterations of exterior architectural features, demolition, and new construction within the boundaries of the Eureka Springs Historic District. The HDC uses Eureka Springs Historic District guidelines and the U.S. Department of Interior standards for the rehabilitation of historic buildings as the basis for our decisions. The Commission can take the following actions on an application: approval with modifications, denial or deferral for more information. Appeal of denial may be made to the Circuit Court. Public comments will be heard on each agenda item as it is called. Other public comments will be heard during the public comment period. Are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that the agenda is approved as posted. Presented.
I'll second.
Maggie made the motion, Frank seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Approval of application does not excuse applicant's owner or agent from compliance with any other applicable codes, ordinances, or policies of the Eureka Springs Historic District. We have no old business. New business is level 332 Dairy Hollow, American Electrical Power owner / CDS Murray, applicant, demolition of garage structure and auxiliary structure, earthwork / grading and sod installation. Do we have somebody present for the 332 Dairy Hollow? Would you please come to the mic and introduce yourself? State your name and address. Yes, of the building you're representing.
I'm James Ball. I work with AEP, American Electric Power, looking at the address 322 Dairy Hollow Drive, I think.
And Kyle's going to read you some information.
Applicant for 332 Dairy Hollow is looking for a certificate of appropriateness for demolition of a garage structure and an ancillary structure to do some earthwork, grading, and some sod installation. The property was built about 1910. It is contributing to the Eureka Springs Historic District. Upon review of the original application, staff requests the applicant to provide more detail on the following items: a preservation / maintenance plan for the residential structure on the property. In evaluating the request for alterations at 332 Dairy Hollow, staff makes the following findings of fact. Subject property is adjacent to the Swepco substation and has recently been purchased by them. Subject property is a contributing historic property to the Eureka Springs Historic District. Eureka Springs Municipal Code, Chapter 4.04, Electric Franchise, Section 4.06 or 4.04.06. Standard of care for facility states: grantees shall endeavor at all times to keep their facilities in a reasonable state of repair and to conform to such practices and install such appliances and equipment as may be in keeping with the customary usage and practice in cities of similar size in the state during the time this franchise shall remain enforced. The proposed work for demolition and groundwork can meet the guidelines as long as it does not negatively impact the historic structure on the site, and the historic structure is subject to accelerated deterioration from weather and vandalism due to its vacant status. Proposed alterations can align with standards and guidelines. Staff does recommend approval of this agenda item with the condition of a preservation/maintenance plan for the historic structure.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion so we can discuss? Need somebody to read the motion and make a second so we can discuss this.
I make a motion that we pass the level 3 at 332 Dairy Hollow as presented.
No, we're moving for discussion. We're moving for discussion.
Oh, we're going to open it up for discussion? Okay,
Yeah.
let's open it up for discussion.
Second.
Frank made the motion. And who seconded?
I will.
She did. Okay. Just a moment. Christine Santamore seconded. Okay, we have some letters. Before we go to public comment, we have some letters that we're going to read into the record. Okay, the first one. Hi, Kyle. Could you please forward this to the HDC Commission for tonight's meeting? Thanks. Dear HDC Commission, in regards to the electric company's request to tear down 2 structures for better access to their property, I believe that it is your responsibility to safeguard the historic house itself. I understand that SWEPCO needs access, but I hope that you would insist a preservation plan for the house itself. Ultimately, the plan would be eventually sell the house to a future resident, but in the meantime, it should be cared for and protected from vandals, deterioration, and fire. Eureka needs the housing and should not lose another historic asset. Thank you for your service to our city. Sincerely, Gwen Bennett, 11 Hillside Avenue. Kyle, my wife Janet and I own the property at 331 Dairy Hollow Road, which is across the road from the above referenced property. Due to recently having COVID, we are unable to attend the August 16th meeting regarding SWEPCO's request to demolish some outbuildings at that location. We would like to be on record that we have no objection to the demolition to the outbuildings, but we would have strong objections to the demolition of the historic house. There aren't that many left in that area, and we don't want to see it destroyed. We are restoring the house at 331, and several other historic homes on that street are being renovated and saved, and it would be a shame to allow 332 to fall into disrepair. We realize that the substation needs more room, but it shouldn't be at the mercy of that historic house. Hopefully, protections can be put in the place that it was to be maintained and not just allowed to deteriorate. Should you have any questions, please contact me at, and he put his phone number down. Thank you for your consideration. Richard Geary, Mayberry. And now, you want to read your 2?
Yes, okay, so this first one's 17 Breezy Point Road, Cecilia A.T. Hello, Kyle. It has come to my attention that SWEPCO bought the yellow house next to the substation on Dairy Hollow, that they plan for this property to be teared down. The property is to tear down the garage and possibly in the future the house as well. I'm opposed to any and all of this. The house needs to be preserved. It is a beautiful piece of Eureka Springs history and architecture. Please let all involved know my stance on this. This home is in a neighborhood I live in. My address is 17 Breeze Point Road, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Sincerely, Cecilia. The next one is from Christy Rachel. Good afternoon, Kyle. My name is Christy Rachel, and I live at 19 Oregon in Dairy Hollow neighborhood. I was shocked to learn that the potential destruction of a historic home in our neighborhood and the plans to expand this substation. I am strongly in opposition to this plan. I did not receive notice that this hearing was scheduled. I do not want our neighborhood destroyed by industrial creep. That substation is an eyesore and a safety health hazard, and I do not want to see it grow more ugly and unsafe. I strongly oppose destruction of the historic home simply for this reason. We need to maintain our historic homes in this neighborhood and be spared of future harm done by the electric company. Thank you for your time, Christy Rachel.
Maggie?
This letter is from Penelope Walker to Kyle Palmer regarding the Level 3 application regarding a historic house. I've watched SWEPCO destroy enough down in Dairy Hollow and up the hill behind them. Everyone who lives in and around should be made aware of this. One couple is out of town and have been totally out of the picture, but they should have been notified because they are planning on putting this farmhouse on the market. This house is worth a lot of history. I would hate to have it demolished. J.D. Birchfield lived in it for maybe 70 years or more with his wife. He was a kind person and helped everyone. He was a well-known pastor. There have been, 3 notices, and really the school should know. Clear Springs School. I'm not liking that they want to enlarge into a larger area in Eureka Springs. I'm sure there's more flat places out on East 62 in Eureka Springs, not down in Dairy Hollow. Regards, Penelope Walker.
Okay. You want to hand me that list, Kyle?
Yes.
No, not yet. Just a second. Let's just hear everybody first. Okay, sir, we got several public comments, so I'll have you sit, and we'll call each one of the, you can sit there or back on your seat, wherever you feel comfortable. It doesn't. Okay, our first is Rhonda Dixon, 327 Dairy Hollow.
Thank you. I'm just going to read my statement.
Do you want us to, you want to lower that for her?
I need to bring this down.
Can you do that? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Rhonda Dixon, and I live at 327 Dairy Hollow Road, across the street from 332. This is not a request by a homeowner to improve or renovate their property. This is a giant energy corporation attempting to start demolition of one of the oldest houses on Dairy Hollow Road so they can expand the electric substation. This deep valley is not a safe place for people to be around an electrical substation, and why it was ever built here is a good question. Why it is allowed to keep expanding is a question for us right now. I bought my property in Dairy Hollow 5 years ago when I moved into town. In the last 3 years, this substation has doubled in size. For the last 3 summers, they have been excavating, pounding through rock, erecting more superstructure, and setting bigger poles and heavier lines going down Dairy Hollow and Grand Avenue. This went on 7 days a week, starting at 7 a.m. and going till dark, even Sundays starting at 7 a.m. The noise was reverberating all through the hollow, constant heavy equipment noise 7 days a week. Certainly no consideration for the people that live down there. SWEPCO came through last summer marking trees that would fall on the power lines. They said they would cut them, but that never happened. Since then, in the last 5 months, there have been 3 large transformer explosions with fires and outages within 4 blocks of the substation on the heavy lines going down Grand Avenue, all caused by trees falling on the new lines. They need to address these current problems that previous expansions have caused and not attempt to build more. In their previous expansions, they put in a building housing a giant diesel motor that comes on and runs day and night. The sound reverberates all up and down the hollow, and it's like having an 18-wheeler refrigeration truck parked outside your house. This is a constant noise pollution in a residential neighborhood, and will get worse if they are allowed to demolish and expand. Any emissions from this station are bouncing around down in this valley, just as the sound does. There is a school full of children down here. On that note, Clear Springs didn't receive a letter about this proposed demolition. Very few people seem to receive a letter. I only know of one besides mine. The commission should be ashamed of not seeing that people would be so drastically affected by this expansion. We're informed they are across from the substation, maybe not within 300 feet of the house, but the substation goes on for half a block. Okay. This is not a simple homeowner request, but a giant corporation attempt to demolish a historic house and expand. It will greatly affect our peace of mind, our safety, and our property values. This should not be allowed. We are also citizens of the historic district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Danos, 839 Pivot Rock Road.
Hello, I am Jeff Danos at 839 Pivot Rock Road. My house actually backs to the power lines that lead right to this substation. So I'm also the director of the Historical Museum here in town, so I happen to value the history and especially our historical structures, as I know all of you do as well, which is why you're here tonight. My first thought when hearing about SWEPCO's desire to expand their existing substation in Dairy Hollow was why? Our population hasn't grown. Appliance and electronics manufacturers are constantly improving the efficiency of their products. So is there really a need? We may never know. If we look at the last time we battled SWEPCO, being forced to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and putting our lives on hold for over a year, only to find out that there was no need. So we may never find out if there's really a need for this, but it's your job tonight to determine whether SWEPCO's request will impact the historical integrity of not only that little yellow cottage next door to the power station, but the entire Dairy Hollow neighborhood. Now, some might say that there's already a power station there and the damage is already done. But the sad truth is that building that station there so many years ago was a social injustice. It allowed an industrial power substation to be placed in one of the poorer residential neighborhoods in our town. Now, maybe it was because there were trailer homes on the street. Maybe some of the houses back then were in disrepair. Maybe some people saw that as urban blight. But either way, those are low-income families. And my bet is they didn't have the resources to fight it. It certainly wasn't built on Spring Street. So we all need to keep in mind that regardless of how much money someone can spend on their house, those are still people's homes. And, families with kids and pets, senior citizens. And in many cases, those are low-income properties, which is something that we keep giving lip service to lately, but we don't seem to have a solution for. So with the SWEPCO project being proposed, the only barrier between that little yellow cottage and the massive industrial power substation right next door, what they're asking for is to remove that barrier. So I don't know about you, but I don't know who's going to want to live in that little house once SWEPCO has removed the old carriage house and they surround that home with service roads and high voltage industrial equipment. Allowing SWEPCO to make that home unlivable is going to destroy the historic integrity of it. Because if nobody lives there, nobody's going to take care of it. We all know that to be true. In addition, allowing SWEPCO to further encroach upon the residentially zoned areas of Dairy Hollow will make that entire neighborhood less livable and less historic. So it's bad enough that we have an industrial substation so close to people's historic homes, right near the only children's playground we have in town, and also right next to Clear Spring School. We can't fix the past. That power station's already there. It's going to be an eyesore. The people that are there have to live with that day to day. But please, for the sake of the citizens of this town and the citizens of that street, and the historic integrity and the safety of the Dairy Hollow neighborhood. Don't let SWEPCO make it worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Fitzpatrick, 101J Lane, Head of Schools CSS. Yeah, but I'm reading exactly what she wrote down.
Hi, I'm Jessica Fitzpatrick, and I'm the head of school at Clear Spring School. I'd just like to comment that, yeah, I was unaware and didn't receive public notice of what's happening here, and I don't really have enough information. So I don't know if it's just demolition. Is there also a plan to expand? That's information that I don't have. And I feel like if we're going to make a decision as a school, we would like to know that information, being that the kids are in that neighborhood. We walk past there all the time, and we do have an interest in what happens in Dairy Hollow. So I'm just speaking on behalf of the school, and that we would have liked more information just to be included in decisions that are made in Dairy Hollow. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Masukas, 5 Mountain.
Thank you. Good evening. Pat Matsoukas, 5 Mountain, 40-plus year resident with a partner that's born and raised here. None of you, except probably Frankie, remember that Grand Avenue was a dirt road. Before they built that road up from the depot going across to Dairy Hollow, that was a dirt road that many of us walked for years, which took you into Dairy Hollow in the morning with the incredible fog and mist in the morning. Pretty amazing. And yes, everything that Jeff said is absolutely spot on. You know, before we had the zoning, that's when SWEPCO came in. And the really good news is, SWEPCO has a lot of money. They have all of our money and more. So if they need to do expansion and stuff, they have money to do this. We as a community don't have those resources. We need to pay attention to our small homes, our historic homes, our residents. So I'm asking you to vote no on this project. And the good news is I'm not worried about them finding somewhere else, because you know they will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcia Yearsley, $2,000, $1,000, and 17 lots of Oregon/Grand. Thanks.
Yes, that's right. I don't have a prepared statement because I only learned about this yesterday. I have 2 mailboxes at the top of Oregon Street, less than 250 feet from the substation, and I never received any notification, so I don't know if that's correct or whether nobody had to be notified that there was even a hearing. Thank heavens some whistleblower neighbors and friends let me know what was proposed down there. I've lived here since 1972. That's almost 50 years. I think it is 50 years. And that dairy up there at the top of Oregon Street was the original dairy in Eureka Springs, and then 200 feet down from that is the original home that the owners of the dairy lived in. It became Dairy Hollow Bed and Breakfast. So those are extremely foundational historic properties. The yellow house in question was last occupied, you may already know this, by somebody named Whitney Capps. She's from the Capps family who owned most all of Hogscald Hollow. She sold the house because her health was failing so badly and she's young, a lot younger than I am, and she's almost immobilized now, and she believes that her health failure came from living so close to those electromagnetic currents that come off that substation. Well, when I moved here, I was told by the woman who founded Clear Springs School, Molly Seligson, that there had been 12 cancer deaths along that street from Clear Springs corner down to, I think, where Rhonda lives, or that's the next. About 5 years ago, Sonny, I can't remember his last name, he ran for state representative, died of cancer. He'd lived in that house his whole life. I can't remember Sonny's last name. A lot of y'all may. Sonny Carr? Carter, yes. So I've done a lot of studies on electromagnetic energy and how harmful it can be. The EPA has reports, many reports on how harmful those currents that come off high voltage electric wires near residential areas are. And there have been studies and proofs and medical surveys and so forth. So number one is the concern of just what this enhanced voltage would do to that mainly residential area, going all the way up Dairy Hollow to the top there where Breezy Point is. There's a whole community of neighbors who live up on Breezy Point, and this is directly above. Well, I guess the current and everything goes right up up that hillside. Where I live, I don't even feel like even though there's a lot of trees, I don't even feel like I'm really safe. I'm not going to be living there long term. I am so opposed to doing anything to take away that yellow house. That is one of the few historic structures left down there that really has a charm. It had a beautiful setting before they started kind of encroaching in that direction. And the fact that they meaning SWEPCO, who have been proven to be encroachers, what we were able to overcome when they wanted to do what they wanted to do, was it 10 years ago, Pat? Yeah, that was a miracle. No small community's ever been able to stand down a public utility, but it took, like Jeff said, hundreds of thousands in legal fees, a committed group going to Little Rock every week for months. It was really almost too much to bear. So in this case, I hope I'm not over dramatizing, but I really I'm appealing to you to say no. These people, if they need to enhance their electric service, need to take it out of a historic residential neighborhood, out of a beautiful rural setting, and not to mention just the physical, genetic danger to the residents as well as the children at Clear Springs who go there every day. They're outside year-round, so much of the time. And to the people, who are trying to live on that hillside, those 17 lots that I have, that Elise Rennick bought that Dairy Hollow farmhouse from the Writers' Colony, as well as the little shack I live in, which is where Crescent Dragon Wagon lived for 25 years, with the idea that those lots could someday be developed into small homes or cottage homes or something like that. And I haven't done anything. There's no way that I would consider building up there to add additional housing to Eureka with this danger afoot. So anyway, I don't know if this is very preliminary, whether they're just fact-finding and researching. I certainly hope that I will be notified formally if there's going to be any kind of voting or decision-making, or SWEPCO is going to send anybody here to listen to us. That's just my appeal, and I'm asking you all, to take my credibility and these other people behind me seriously, because we've made this our home. We intend to continue, and we have a very vested interest in all the points that are right now being endangered: the historic preservation, the safety and sanctity of a residential neighborhood, and the encroachment that this would make on the lifestyle of people there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you didn't have to cut me off, because I had a hard time stopping.
Is it the 200 yards? Okay, I'm going to read this. Here's the letter that went out to the people within 200 foot. August 2nd, 2023, dear neighbor, a level 2 application, or is that 3? A level 3 application has been submitted to the Historic District Commission for consideration to demolish the garage/carport and an ancillary structure, as well as grade work to be performed at 332 Dairy Hollow in Eureka Springs Historic District. The public meeting will be held August 16th, 2023 in the City Auditorium at 6 p.m. You are invited to attend the hearing. There will be time for public comments to express support or opposition to the application proposal. You are welcome to send me a letter to be read into the public record if you're unable to attend in person. If you have any questions concerns, you may contact my office, 479-340-0865, kyle.palmer@eureka-springs.ar.gov. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Regards, Kyle Palmer, Director, Planning and Community Development, City Historic Preservation Officer. The letters were sent to Larry and Kathy Harrison, 107 Breezy Point Road. Ashley Patzer, 1989 Main Street, number 554, Kansas City, Missouri. Maybury, Richard, Gary, and Janet P., 21 Singleton, Eureka Springs. Ted and Hazel Brumley, 403 Kane Avenue, Huntsville, Arkansas. Brooke Eddy, 484 County Road 207, Eureka Springs. Rhonda Dixon, 327 Dairy Hollow Road, Eureka Springs. So letters were sent out. It's just within the 200-foot. No, ma'am. Public comments are closed. Yes, I wanted to do that. Now, commissioners, your comments, questions of SWEPCO can come back up.
Dee, when we went down there for that site visit, Kyle, you were there when I was there. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You were there when I was there. Did we have a representative from SWEPCO there during that time frame?
We did not. He did offer to come. I felt I could relay the information that he had given me. And so, yeah, I did not require him to be there for that.
You know, personally, I would feel more comfortable if we was to table this application and revisit the site visit with a representative from SWEPCO, so we can see exactly what they have in mind to do with that property if we were to pass the demolition part. I think that that would be in our best interest, to be truthful, but that's just my opinion. But I thought I would throw it on the table and see.
Other people's comments? Christine?
Demolition of the house is not being asked, right?
That is correct. The house is not being asked to be demolished.
Right.
No.
It's the garage and the ancillary building behind.
But I think it would be beneficial for us, for the future of the commission, that if we were to go down there and review this, and we can ask them questions on what they propose to do with that house in the future. If they're going to mothball that house, or if they're going, what their plans are with that historic property.
We can't.
So I think, I'm sorry, remind me your name again. James.
James.
I think James has some answers that he can give on that. But yeah, if the commission feels like that's something that they want to do, but I think James can answer some of those questions tonight and see what you think about that.
What are your plans for the house in the future?
We're currently renting space at the City Hall, a desk, so we might use that as an office space. Not really sure if we'd want to do that. It'd be used a couple times a week for one person. They'd come in when they come into the station to do their checks, because we're legally required to do certain checks to verify the equipment's running adequately for them to have a space to be. And if that's not the case, we were just going to sell it. But the garage space is right next to the fence. It's dangerous to have structures that close to a substation, and we're trying to get access to the back because we didn't want to, we're not expanding past existing property line, what our previous property line was. We're not going to expand into and to the property we just purchased, but we wanted to be able to get access to the back so that we could get back behind there and do some stuff.
So you're basically, you want to put a driveway through there to...
Very temporary. We'll put it back, and we don't want to maintain a driveway to the back. There wouldn't be any reason to have it in the back other than for construction.
So you want to gain access to the rear portion of that
For construction.
substation?
Just, yes,
Yeah.
for construction.
So construction as in, was the plan originally for SWEPCO to expand the substation? Is that factual?
We are expanding the substation. We were going to expand to the east, up the hillside. And when I saw those drawings, it was going up in the hillside quite a bit and expanding, and it's like, we can't do that. That would be,
So
frankly, an eyesore and very expensive. So we regrouped, figured out another way where we're trying to minimally expand on the old existing property line, the SWEPCO property. And we came up with a way to do that, but we need access to the back. And when the house came up for sale next door to us, it was a prime opportunity to, one, get the access to the back we needed, and to get rid of that garage that's right on our station fence. It's a hazard.
So that is something I noticed during the site visit is at the property line between the property we're discussing and the substation. It looks like who did the grading, it wasn't taken into consideration of where perforated drain lines would go, where the grade would go. So it literally just drops off like 6 feet, which has caused issues that's led flood, like more water erosion off into that side and into that property line. Is that something that you're trying? So the thing is I think that's a big concern of the people who've spoken up and sent letters in, is if you did build that road, is it going to be the same thing where you just have a driveway going up and all of a sudden it just grades down? Like instead of it only being 5 feet from the garage that's deteriorated, is it then going to be 5 feet from the house that's then going to lead to deterioration of conforming structure in Eureka Springs?
No, I see you're looking at the drawings there. We have addressed the drainage issues and taking into account the water coming down from the hill above us. We are redoing the drainage inside where we're working and along the side to make sure that we don't push it out. It's going where it should go now. There's a little area on the northeast on the old, I say existing, but I say the existing property line for what we had previously. We're going to open that up a little bit and put the station fence through there, but we'll stay on the existing property line, and that's mainly for a dry path to get into the equipment for maintenance. But you can see there's drainage where we're addressing the drainage flow coming in through there.
Okay, so is there an issue with the power supply? That was something that was addressed from local residents. So is the substation not adequate enough for amount of power that's currently for the residents in Eureka Springs, or where does that power be supplied to? Like, where does that substation send power to?
The equipment in the station is getting very old. It's past its usable life. And it's getting hard to get equipment and maintain that. So if something goes wrong on it, it would be very difficult to fix it. So SWEPCO is trying to upgrade the system. I think our average age of the equipment in our system is 50 years old. So we're trying to keep the power grid. And the more electric cars we have, I heard a thing where they're 25 times more than what a refrigerator takes. So if every house, quarter of the houses get electric cars, it's going to really tax the grid where it can't meet that load. So
the substation is just for Eureka Springs, or is it for also Holiday Island as well, or is the substation just supplying power to Eureka Springs?
The power grid's connected. Actually, Bradley, I think we're just in Eureka Springs, aren't we? I don't know if we're just in. I know in a lot of areas where our power grids intertwine so that if one goes down, another can share load, but I don't think we have that here, do we? Okay. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it is for Eureka Springs.
So there's really not a backup for that power grid, is there,
Not,
if it goes out? No.
I work on the transmission side, like the main lines and the substations. The distribution side is the one that feeds the houses, but there's always some redundancy. It's extremely rare, very extremely rural towns that have no grids that interact with each other, because no one wants that. You always have to have grids that interact with each other.
Okay.
But it's limited, because that's a different power company that handles that. We're the only ones that handle Eureka Springs, so it's not common to interact with the other power companies,
Okay.
other than emergency situations.
Okay.
I have a question. The current substation, when you say you're expanding the capacity, are you expanding the area as well? Or can the new equipment that you hope goes in there be in that same situation?
We are expanding a little bit to the north and to the west,
Which is opposite the house?
opposite the house.
And that reason, and the driveway or road or access to the back of the substation would be temporary?
Yes. And afterwards, we'll sod it and make it look like a
Lawn?
yard.
A
Yeah,
yard?
A lawn, yard.
So are you basically staying in the fenced area that is now?
Yeah, if you look at that, the property line goes at an angle, and then when it goes on the very northeast corner, we're going to expand the fence out to the existing property line. Not quite all the way, because it starts to get into the hill a little bit, but we're just going to rotate the fence, and that's for a drive path. And we had to redesign the station to shorten it up a little bit so that we could keep it in as tight a footprint as possible, because we didn't want to go up the hillside. The original plan was to go up the hillside quite a bit, and that was going to be an eyesore and expensive. So we redesigned it so that we could maintain the existing footprint as much as possible with the newer equipment for the reliability.
How much will you be increasing the footprint by to the north and east?
It's less than an acre. It's roughly 55,000 square feet. It's less than that. It's probably, it's a lot less than that. We're basically squaring off the end of the station on the northeast side.
I don't have that map.
And the property's already owned by SWEPCO, and we're not giving approval or denial of the expansion of the power lines itself and the substation itself. As a historic district commissioner, the thing that's presented in front of us are just the removal of the two structures that do not include the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I would love to keep the house, because I ride motorcycles. I'm up here quite a bit. I would like to use the house at times. But I don't know if I'll do that, but there's a good chance we'll probably wind up selling the house, because we do not want the operational expense. We'll maintain it.
And if the approval gets denied tonight, SWEPCO's expansion, what will occur if the demolition of the two structures do not pass? Is there an alternate route that can be done? Or is it, if we do not pass it, then SWEPCO won't expand the substation?
Oh, we're still expanding. It's just going to take longer. And
Exactly, because it's not our approval or not whether you expand, it's just whether or not we demolish the two buildings.
we'll have to do a lot more work on the back of it to get the access, dig into the hillside more to get the access to the back that we need. This was an opportune time to do it.
Frank made this suggestion, this will be up to you guys, but I'm kind of with him. I would like to go out with SWEPCO, see exactly the footprint, and see if our building inspector could also go with us.
I
But that's
agree.
up to you guys.
I'd like to see you know, like when they mark for electrical lines or whatever on the ground, I'd like to see where exactly you're going to be.
Okay,
Yeah,
then,
If the
is
demolition
that
of the
kind
garage is.
of all of our consent?
Yes.
Then Frank, would you, well, Christine, would you remove your second, and Frank move your motion, and then somebody make a new motion to table this? So we can do what we've just discussed, or suggestions?
Can I?
Yes.
We are starting in September. Are you guys familiar with SPP? They're the government entity that manages the electrical grid in this. Basically, they go down to North Texas, southwest Louisiana, western Arkansas, all of Oklahoma, and basically all the way up the country.
We could do
They-
emergency and try to push it on through and not make you wait the 2 weeks, right, Kyle? I mean, if we can all get together.
Yeah, we can do a special session.
Because we have outages scheduled with them, and they do not take kindly to
But if we can
redoing things,
get
because
something
it's been
done
planned for.
here in the next week, if we can all get
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I have no problems with that.
Yeah, we'll work with you if you work with us.
Not a problem. But yeah, the house, we do not want to tear down the house.
Okay.
The house is, and it's just the garage it's literally on the property line, and it's dangerous to have things that close to electrical substation. If a fault does occur, and the age of the equipment in that substation is getting fairly old, so it could happen. It'd be extremely rare, and that would put a different potential on the fence, which could cause a fire.
I have concerns.
Excuse me, this is the commissioner talking, it's our turn. Christine, did you remove your
I haven't.
second?
What did I second? I can't remember.
You seconded Frank's motion to talk about this, and also,
Okay. So just
I just want
rescind.
you to remove your second, and I want Frank to remove his motion, and then I want somebody to make a new motion about a site visit and so forth. I think Frank understands. Kelly?
I was actually commenting.
She had a question.
Oh, okay.
What are the plans for, well, first of all, I'd like to establish that the middle portion of the garage is original to the property, and it's a 1920s, like Model A or Model T garage. The two things on the side are lean-tos. I would like to see, well, I would defer because I'd like to see that kept because it's original to the home, and it probably had running boards through it. You know, so it's the age of the home, the middle portion. And then the rock fence in the front yard that has the wire on top of it is attached to the side of the garage. So I have concerns about what's going to happen to that original, you know, it's kind of that vernacular kind of giraffe rock fence. We don't have too many existing examples of that in town. So I'd like to see a plan. So I guess I'm agreeing with you. We don't have
Yeah.
enough information.
Yeah. Guess what, we're going to redo this site visit.
Yes.
So Christine's removed your second, Frank. Have you moved
Do I
your
need to
motion?
make a motion over?
Yeah, would you make a,
Yes, I'd like to table this level 3 at 332 Dairy Hollow, and we'll put it on to our next agenda. Can we do that?
well, we're going to try to
And/or an emergency site.
Pending
speed
the
it,
site visit.
speed it up as quick as we can.
Pending the site visit.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, can we get a more complete motion with all of it in there? Do you know what I mean?
What?
That we're going to table it
I just did.
pending us
Site
visiting?
visit.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what he
I need
said.
you to second it.
okay, second.
Okay. Frank made the motion. Christine seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. So we will have an emergency site visit and meeting as quick as we can and get all of us out there. And maybe it won't rain this time and mess up our site visits. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
We'll
guys. I
be
really
with
appreciate it.
Thank you.
consent agenda are level 1 and 2 projects that the city preservation officer believes to be in accordance with the design guidelines. Any commissioner or member of the public may move any consent agenda item to the regular agenda for discussion. Level 1, 290 North Main, Dorch owner, new signage, new post for parking lot. Level 1, 83 and a half Spring, Fortner, applicant, new hanging signage. Level 1, 125 East Van Buren, Jones, applicant, /CS Bank, owner, new signage and drive-through. Level 1, 33 Spring, Brocher, applicant, replacement signage. Did everyone see the consent agenda?
Yes.
Do I have a motion for the consent?
I move to pass the consent agenda items.
Kelly made the motion. Do I have the second? Peter seconded. Any discussion on the consent? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Administrative approvals, you'll find them all online. They are done by our City Historic Preservation Officer. Minor impact projects include ordinary maintenance that does not involve a change in materials, new and replacement signs, alterations to non-contributing and/or non-historic structures, excluding major additions or demolition, minimum impact projects that meet design guidelines. Commissioner business, approval of minutes from July 19th's regular meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of July 19th, regular meeting as presented.
Okay, Maggie made the motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Frank seconded. And it's just us, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Christine, were you here 2 weeks? No, you were not. Okay, this for those who approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So Frank, Maggie, Peter, and myself voted aye. We were present. Reconciliation of 2022 financials. Do you need to talk about that?
We just need a motion to approve the legislative audit for 2022 has started. And so this is the new form that the finance director has suggested that we do for our yearly financial reconciliation. I put those in your packet. If you guys have any questions on any of that, I can answer those for you. We just need a motion to approve those.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve our financials for 2022?
I move that we approve the 2022 financials as given to the commissioners.
Second.
Christine made the motion. Peter seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Next meeting, September 6th. Well, I'll go ahead and read this. We may have an emergency one in between. Next meeting, September 6th, 2023. Level 3 applications are due Thursday, August 24th. Level 2 applications due Wednesday, August 30th. Agenda setting for September 6th, 2023 meeting, which I guess would still have this meeting because an emergency would be just to focus on the one thing's all we could talk about. Anybody have anything they want to put on September 6th?
No.
Kelly brought up something. Kyle's going to check with Little Rock.
Do you want to talk about that at the next meeting, or do you want some time to plan?
I had 2 things. One is that Kyle's going to help me check on kind of a legal thing that Peter, Kyle, and I learned about at a training session. And then I had an idea that I got from that same training session on building rapport with our constituency by developing a program that allows them to like designate the age of their home that they would go pick up from Kyle, so that he's meeting like homeowners and new homeowners before there's an issue. You know, before they're coming before the commission. So then we're basically have more of a cooperative relationship, which I think would be really good. I've seen it done in Galveston and McKinney, and it's really successful. People want that.
It
Like,
works pretty good, huh?
so in Galveston, they give a medallion if your home survived the flood, that Hurricane Isaac storm. If your home survived that storm, you go to the historic district officer and you can purchase a medallion for your home, and they'll actually, when they put their homes on the market, they'll actually say this home has the designation. And McKinney does something similar where they just kind of date the age of the home, and we've had a couple
We've had several in town.
fires, or even we could do something just to date their home.
Hillside, I think it's 45 Hillside, as soon as I think of the name of the bed and breakfast.
At the bottom or the top?
Well, I know they got a whole plaque and everything and bought it and all, and had to do, Glenna helped them go through a lot of things, but yeah, we could look into that.
Yeah,
Do
and
a
then
report on it.
do we still do the awards? I know they used to do awards here.
Yeah, we were going to discuss it. I brought this, but
Oh, okay.
some of the invitations and things we've done in the past, but COVID happened.
Yes.
We did not have anything for 2 years, and then last year, everything was changing, and so we didn't. It's usually in the spring. I think I covered all this the last time, like June or something. Let me see, I can tell you exactly when the last one was. That was May 10th. The last one was May 15th. So yeah, usually in the spring times when we did those. And there was several of us that, I know the very last one was not just, it used to be HDC and Preservation Society. Preservation asked Glenna had been on preservation, so two of us went together and HDC did 4 different ones, and then preservation has their bylaws that they're told what to do. And then the last time we invited other people, so I know Main Street, the Chamber, Parks, several, we all did, and we had about 125 people turned out for it. It was a great one, but we have not had one since then due to COVID and everything else. So I think we should look at planning for next spring.
Do you want to put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can look at that one too?
Yeah.
And that would give me time to research kind of.
Yeah, we had talked about it,
Yeah.
and then what, let me see, seeing if it listed them. Because HDC was usually the outstanding stewardship of a residential property, usually 20 or more years, outstanding stewardship of commercial property, outstanding stewardship of public property, and outstanding stewardship of sacred space. That's what the HDC did in the past. And then preservation, we have a list in the bylaws, but maybe not everything, like condemned property, rescuing one, improving a site, restoration of a building for business, restoration of a residence, outstanding historical event, new building that blends with historic Eureka Springs, improving a site. And then the year that the others came in, they, of course, brought their own awards, which I just thought was great. Everybody had a great time. More people got awards because more organizations were giving them. I mean, people like awards.
And sorry, Kelly, for the next agenda, what was the first one on the legal?
So it was about
Our emails, right?
our emails.
Oh,
They
okay.
they had a legal counselor that advised that you not use your personal email, that you establish a separate email for the HDC for city business. So in Peter's case, he'd have, because you're on zoning and planning also, right? So,
Do we have a separate email for HDC business?
There's not one that we assign, but yeah, we can definitely add a conversation for FOIA, stuff like that, on the next agenda too.
so
Yeah.
as each of the commissioners would need to establish their own email just for commission business, so if they get
So they can directly
subpoenaed,
contact
then you're not turning over the entirety of your personal account or your business account. You just
Yeah.
have a separate,
We can just discuss,
Yeah,
put that
sorry.
on the next time to discuss. Okay, now we're at public comments, and Pat's still here, so I assume she wants to talk to us. I was looking at you because I thought, could you tell me the name of that bed and breakfast up there? Stephanie Kerr had it
What bed and breakfast?
on Hillside.
Arsenic and Old Lace?
No, farther down.
The Inn at Rose Hall?
No, farther down on the other side, next to Gwen Bennett.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
You're with me.
One of those. Yeah,
But I know
they're all the same place,
They
but
got a plaque and all, but
it's not
No,
crap. Can't think of what it's called.
I've got evening shade stuck in my head, but we both know where it is.
A couple things I was thinking, when I was listening tonight, I heard this 200-foot rule. Does the 200 feet start at the center of the property? Does it 200 feet from all sides? How do we define this?
It's been in our codes forever, so how is it defined?
For years, it was at edges of the property. So if this was my house, any place on the edge, 200 feet going off of there. Now, as opposed to the center of the property, because that would change all of that. So I just want to be clear that, I know we got new people here, so I just wanted to, these are like those little things that mean something. How do we define this? And then,
Well, City Hall defines it, so Kyle.
well, City Hall defines it, but you guys make the,
Yeah, so the way that I've been doing it is I take the lot size, so whichever distance is longer, I divide it in half, add that to 200, and then start from the center and go out, if that makes sense. So if it's 80 foot long, I'll do 240 foot from the center of the property.
from the center of the property.
Yeah.
As opposed to the edges of the property.
Right.
Because that makes a big difference. I
But
mean,
he
that's what
is-
I was hearing tonight, so I just think that I
He
would
is-
like us to all be on the same page
but he
with
did
it.
say he was adding to it.
Yeah, he's like adding the radius, pretty much.
You're taking the length, so if the property's... So this is a piece of property, right? So tell me what you're doing.
So I'll take the width of it, so if it's like 40 foot, I'll go from the center and go 220 foot out.
Plus 40. That's what he said.
Most properties are not square in this town, so it makes it very difficult on some pieces of property to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if there was a standard formula. That was number one. Number two on my list of things to think about was, I know the SWEPCO thing is a big thing. However, you are the HDC. You're not planning, you're not zoning, you're not any of those things. Your only concern should have been, is this and this okay? And I felt like you're dragging this out in a way where I'm sitting back there in my head going, point of order. This is nobody's business. Your only concern is yay or nay. And I now know, I mean, I felt like I feel like I'm walking out here knowing that you're all going to say yes to SWEPCO. And that breaks my heart again. And not that you all will, but it feels that way because you couldn't even say to yourselves, We don't care what SWEPCO does. Our only concern is what is this to this to this. No more than that. If they choose to build anchors, they'll go to planning and zoning and have to figure that out with them. That's not your concern. Our concern is that those exterior buildings to the house, et cetera. That was it. And I'm sorry that I feel like everybody's going to be wasting their time on this, because really at the end of the day, that's the question in front of you, not do we need to, accommodate SWEPCO? Shit, no, we don't. We don't need to accommodate anybody in this town. You're the HDC. And the other part is that years ago when I came in front of HDC, there was an incredible HDC handbook that was put out by the state of Arkansas. And it gave some incredible guidelines to the commissioners. And one of the things it says in there is, you are welcome to say to anybody coming in front of you, we want a rendering of what it's going to look like when it's done in the neighborhood. Because we've all seen houses in neighborhoods that you think, how did that get there? And that's one of the things you can do, is say, how will this look and how will this enhance the neighborhood? And if it doesn't enhance the neighborhood, that's up to you guys.
Do you have a copy of our award-winning HDC handbook, guideline book? It won some awards.
It won some awards.
Yes.
Lovely. I don't have one, but I'm sure it's online, and I'm sure I could probably download it. These are, I don't spend a whole lot of time on HDC stuff, but I do on occasion, and I look at this and I say, why are we having all this? It should have been yay or nay. Mm-hmm. Because anything they do in the future has nothing to do with you guys. Anyway, just things I'm thinking about as a local. Good night.
Good night.
Yes. Christine, do you have any comments?
No.
Kelly? Frank?
Your turn. Your turn.
Comments?
No, I have no comments.
Maggie?
I'm good.
Peter?
My only comment would be thanks to the community for coming out and being in meeting tonight. It's very important to hear what residents have to say with SWEPCO's property that they acquired. So just please stay informed. We're going to, like Kyle said, we're going to have a special meeting to go back to the site to determine what needs to be done further. So definitely stay informed, to let the community know, and stay tuned.
I have a comment, if that's okay.
Okay.
It's just kind of a point of order that I don't understand. Before, somebody wanted to make a comment, and Dee, you said comments are closed.
Yeah.
And then this lady made comments.
No, we have on our agenda comments.
Comments at the end.
They may make comments on each. We tell them a public comment will be heard on each agenda item as it is called.
Okay.
So we let them do that. And then we also have public comments at the end. We used to, in the past, before, it's probably been 2 years, 2.5 years, we only did on each agenda item. We didn't used to have public comments at the end, but people kept insisting on it, so it was put on there.
Yeah, that makes it clear. Thank you.
So now we have to have that. And I noticed she was sitting there, and I looked down, and I thought, oh, we still have public comments to come up. So, and then we get to make our comments if we have anything, but we usually just say thanks. What are we doing next, guys? So thanks,
Yeah,
guys, for coming. I know
I would rather err on the side of caution, though, and see for my own little pea brain what it looks like.
Well, after they spoke and brought up a lot of comments, it made us think of different things than what we'd already had. So I think that's why we're not just,
That's another concern sitting on the Historic District Commission is she spoke perfectly about, when she spoke about her public comment, what's in front of us, what we're voting yay or nay to. But the misinformation and the lack of understanding of our community members knowing that that's our only decision of those two things, rather than if we were to make an approval of something, it just makes it seem as though that we're all in favor of SWEPCO expanding their substation, getting it ginormous and all, when really, she said it, it's not really our responsibility or accountability on what they do with their property once they acquire the property. It's only our job for what's on new business, and right here, it's just demolition of garage structure and our auxiliary building,
And
so.
I kind
That's
of,
true.
That's the
I
hard
asked-
part, is this
Yeah.
misunderstanding between us at the board and the community members that's making it seem like we're going to be giving approval, that we're giving a go-ahead, when really we don't have a say whether or not. That's why I asked the
Yeah,
question with
'cause
SWEPCO.
she's right.
They're going to do the expansion whether we like it or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
just how easily they can access it or not. And the community needed to hear him say that, because we don't have a right to tell them as a company whether or not they can expand.
you are correct. And I leaned over and asked Kyle something during discussions. On some of these things in the past, we have had a letter from our building inspector. And so I was asking Kyle Jacob's thoughts, which none of us know Jacob's, and I would like his comments too, or a letter, because sometimes that helps us.
With
And
our
also the
decisions.
public, you know?
Well, because honestly, we would be making a decision on the demolition regardless of who owned it.
Yes, exactly.
And
And what was going to go on around it.
exactly, that's our
But
only,
that's hard.
It is.
yes,
hard.
it is hard.
Because there's assumptions that are going to be made whether or not we
By
make an
the
approval or
general
not.
public, as
And-
well as,
And that was a very good question that you asked of him.
And she actually had a really good point,
Yes.
and I understand her frustration, but
Definitely.
there was some misinformation that needed to be cleared up.
Yep.
Yes.
I agree.
And that would be the only other thing I want to say before we finish up with comments. Are there conditional situations where residents as a whole in Eureka Springs will be informed when it comes to like public works stuff like this? For example, SWEPCO involves with electric for not only just two people 200 feet and around, it involves every single resident in Eureka Springs. So is there, when it comes to septic or when it comes to electric, or is there any exception, or how, I mean, are only the 200 people surrounded affected by it? Do you see what I'm saying? Because this is a big decision.
Well, that's who got the letters.
Yes.
But the whole town
is now
is
a
notified.
buzz
and-
with this
Yeah.
miss or correct
So
information.
as you saw, other people that don't even, live close by came.
Mm-hmm.
And next time, more people would come.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. I just mean because it has to do with a company, it's a corporation that involves power to the community. That's why I say seems like it's a conditional situation where more residents rather than 200 feet should
Well,
be
usually
informed.
don't we put that in the newspaper before the
That's why I'm
commission
confused.
meeting,
Shouldn't have
and
been
then
So-
informed in public.
people
For
will
HDC,
come.
it's no longer a requirement to put a notice in the paper for level 3 applications.
It's not?
No.
Okay. That's good to know, though.
Right.
SWEPCO, has such a bad rep,
Yeah.
if you will, from the 10 years ago. I mean, that was
Yeah.
horrible.
But we also have guidelines right here.
We have
Yes.
guidelines.
And that pretty well spell out to us what we can and can't do. I mean, if we really read these, and I have my old book too, which a lot of it's right here. It's easier sometimes for me to read in my old book because I'm so used to being able to, but it's pretty well all here. There's a couple of things that we still need to clean up that we started and we haven't, but maybe this fall when things slow down, maybe we can just dab in and clean up of those couple of things.
Well, I think we're doing the right thing by
Yeah.
tabling this applicant and going
better
down
be
for
safe.
another site visit.
Yeah,
We had so
we
much
need-
opposition from the neighborhood on this application that we want them to feel really secure and comfortable with our decision, and they realize that we're going above and beyond doing a second site visit.
And
So-
at the site visit, guys, we can't really talk and ask a lot of questions.
Right, so the questions would be directed at either myself or whoever they send as representative. And then conversation amongst yourselves,
We can't.
yeah, it has to be.
We can't whisper to each other. We can't just focus on SWEPCO and Kyle and just be really careful, guys.
So Kyle, since this doesn't have to do with the size of the substation, it strictly has to do with the demolition of those two structures. That's it, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really, and truly.
And though we're asking them to maintain that house and not let it be,
Yeah.
Not just sit there multiple.
And you
That's
guys
more
all
important.
got
That's what I
a
was-
copy of
yeah, that's
the,
why we got that
You know.
conversation.
what
That's
we're
important,
asking.
because the grade
Yeah.
of the property right now, it's important that they take all that stuff into consideration, because that house is conforming and it's a beautiful structure and should be turned into offices
Right.
since they already own it.
It'd make a great office for them, actually, but I
It
don't
would.
think that they really have a need for it, to be truthful, down there.
But it's a really valuable piece of property.
It is.
It is,
And,
very valuable.
Well, he kind of said that. He said, I may go there once or twice a week, but one person, so he kind of said it wouldn't be used that much.
Yeah.
And I don't know who would buy it if they put it up for sale.
It was on the market for a little while too.
Yeah.
And Swepco purchased it after it was on the market for a while, because I don't think, I mean, that's something I saw, I thought it was a beautiful structure, and then I pulled it up on Google Maps and saw that it was right next to the substation, and immediately it was out the window for me, not an interest.
Yeah.
so.
Maybe they can get somebody that works at SWEPCO to live there, like an overseer, in case the lights go out.
Yeah, like emergency maintenance, like an emergency maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance.
Like a lighthouse keeper.
In case the lights go out.
Kyle,
Call us, we'll have the direct number.
do you have any? It's your turn for comments.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here, and also thank you to the community for being involved. I think this is the most feedback we've had on an application so far, at least since I've been part of HDC. So yeah, I think it's great the community got together for that.
So do we have an adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Peter made the motion. Maggie seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries 5-0.